Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm fired up. I'm also Joanna Coles, the Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
I am Samantha B., Chief Content Officer of Getting the Fuck Out of America, which I'm doing tonight. I'm leaving for a few days.
I know, but can I point out that you are going to Paris for a luxury treat with your daughter? And it's not like you're leaving to go to Nicaragua.
No, but I did tell her, I did caution her to not wear any of her American flag sweaters.
Interesting. Interesting.
We're wearing all muted colors and we will be on best behavior.
Are you going to tell everybody you're Canadians?
No, but I am going to learn the French phrase for, I don't like Donald Trump either. I think he's crazy. I'm so sorry.
I think you already know that.
I kind of do. I'm an emissary of peace and goodwill.
Okay. Are you indeed?
Yes.
Okay, if you haven't got a subscription to The Daily Beast, you should have one by now. It's very straightforward. You just go to thedailybeast.com. And here at the podcast, we obsess on the people and the stories that we love at The Daily Beast and that you've been reading this week. This week, we're talking about hundreds of things, because why wouldn't we? We're talking about Sarah Wynne Williams' new book that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want anybody to read. No. But we are also going to be, well, at least I want to mention how moved I was by watching, I hate to say it, Elon's achievement in bringing SpaceX's Dragon down to Earth in those beautiful parachutes and bringing back Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who've spent 9 months in space. And they were greeted, how could one even orchestrate this by a pod of dolphins? I found it very moving. I almost cried. I haven't cried for 25 years, but I was almost moved to tears yesterday.
That's nice. What if the dolphins were there to eat them? You don't know what goes on in the mind of dolphins.
I don't think dolphins eat people. I think they were there clapping their fins underwater and we couldn't see it. But what a glorious way to come back down to Earth after 9 months of being stuck in space with one person in a space capsule. Can you imagine?
I don't want to open a whole kettle of worms here. But I will say that on my honeymoon, my husband and I witnessed one dolphin rape another dolphin.
Of course.
At an aquarium
Of course you
in
did.
Cancun, Mexico. And so I'm just very suspicious of those creatures.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Oi. Okay, so we're also going to be talking about the chaos at the Kennedy Center, Chuck Schumer's now scrapped book tour.
Yes.
And of course, the biggest question you've all been asking yourselves, is President Trump post-sex?
I hope so.
It's a subject of much speculation among his White House aides.
I feel that we have really started this podcast with a bang.
We have
so to
started
speak.
it with a bang. I will say, I'm
Or
very
without
disappointed
a
we
bang.
don't have another child to announce belonging to Elon Musk.
Yes.
So good news on bringing them back from space. Bad news that we don't have a new baby to announce.
Such bad news.
Such bad news.
What a shame. I'm sure there's one cooking somewhere.
So in the download, we're going to be talking to our former federal prosecutor and brilliant Daily Beast legal correspondent, Shan Wu. And joining us as our beasts of the week, we've got 2 of them this week, are the Emmy award-winning writers and producers and creators of Will and Grace, Max Mutchnick and David Kohan. Their new show, Mid-Century Modern, is out next week, and it's hilarious. It's one of the best written things I've listened to or watched for a long time, and as refreshing as the jugs of the world's most delicious martinis that Max serves in his garden.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Yeah, there is nothing better than going to Max's house, which I try and do every time I'm in LA, for a refreshing martini, which is so powerful you almost have to be carried out. We've got so much to talk about, Sam. And I need to get you out of here quickly because, as we've said, you're going to Paris tonight.
I am.
In your gesture to escape American oppression.
I just need to climb a mountain of brie, and then I'll be fine.
I need to give you a list of all the things I want you to bring back from French pharmacy for me.
That's great. French pharmacy is on my list.
Yeah,
it's
of
like
course.
the top spot. I'll be there every day.
Yeah.
Rooting through all the bins for your favorite perfume.
Okay, thank you very much. And I've got various creams that you can only get there because obviously they don't pass the FDA here. Though that will probably change.
Dangerous creams.
Dangerous creams
in
from
my
France.
suitcase. I'll have to check my bag on the way back, and that's fine.
Oh, yes. Dangerous creams from France, but they will make me look thinner, blonder, younger. So it's all good.
All worth it.
Okay, what are we talking about first?
Well, let's talk about Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams, which is a book that I loved and have already gifted to 4 people that I know and love, who I know would love it. Boy, that is a hail of a book.
So we should just say, first of all, that we were due to have her on the podcast.
Yes.
And in the same week that Facebook got rid of fact-checking, they basically stopped her from promoting the book because they claim that she's in violation of a non-disparagement clause in her severance agreement.
Yes. So they're in arbitration now. The publisher can still sell the book. This is my understanding.
It's a very weird
but
compromise.
The author, is not permitted to promote the book. Well, I purchased the book, and I love an audiobook because I do tend to drive a lot, and so I've been listening to it. I got to say, right out of the gate, the book opens with a shark attack, and that, to me, is the mark of a great book. Great start.
Well, she almost dies from the. I'm only a third of the way through the book, which is about as far as I get with any book these days.
As I've already expressed, I don't trust ocean creatures, so this really started on a very interesting note, and really never is kind of unrelenting. It's fascinating, and I know that people have a problem with it, and I know that Facebook tried to shut it down, but Facebook constantly tries to shut down criticism of themselves. I personally experienced that at Full Frontal. We had a full act planned on their shenanigans. I mean, shenanigans is a ridiculous word to use, not to scale, but what they wrought in Myanmar. We had 2 acts planned on it, and they completely shut it down the day before we were set to air. The network wouldn't let me say the things that I wanted to say about Facebook. So this book is quite satisfying to me.
Well, and they've certainly gone after Sarah Wynne Williams, saying that she created a toxic environment, she was a toxic employee, that she was let go from Facebook, and they've denied a lot of what's in the book.
That's sure. Well, the book is just a catalog of careless people doing reckless things.
And very rich people doing,
very
because
careless,
at this stage they were all becoming extremely wealthy.
Very rich, yes. What they knew, when they knew it, and how they did nothing about it. It's actually, it's just like a chronology of all the things we already know, but detest. The things that I detest about Facebook anyway, and how, they've just... The stated mission of like bringing people together, bringing the world together. They've just been harvesting our data and attention under the guise of bringing people together for so goddamn long, just experimenting with all of humankind and demonstrating zero accountability. So yeah, there's definitely some juicy stories and some gossipy stories about Sheryl Sandberg and Mark Zuckerberg. But honestly, I actually think the impact of Facebook, the things they've done, are so much worse than all those juicy stories. And I loved to see it laid out in a really comprehensive way. I think it's really well written. It is very interesting, how people show you who they are when there is a power differential. And I think that is well laid out in this book as well. And I think it's fascinating.
Well, I'm not convinced I'm going to get through it now. She's a bit like a sort of Bridget Jones character, isn't she? And that she sort of ends up in slightly hapless situations where a cell phone doesn't work and she's in the middle of a third world country. I did find it interesting. What I did find interesting also was just the focus on her traveling with Sheryl Sandberg, and Sheryl Sandberg having spent $13,000 on lingerie and then offering to share her bed on the plane, which has been interpreted as a sort of quasi-sexual gesture. And having spent time with Sheryl, I slightly felt that had been misinterpreted. Frankly, when you're that wealthy, spending $13,000 on lingerie is nothing. And the character, Sarah, was heavily pregnant at the time, and so Sheryl had offered to share the one bed on the plane with her as they were travelling, which I interpreted as a slightly more generous gesture than other people did. I will also say, because she was Cosmopolitan's career editor for a time after the launch of Lean In, that I have rarely worked with such a button-down executive. She was extraordinarily well prepared. Her notes were incredible, and she used data in a way that I've barely seen anybody use it since, actually, in terms of just what is going to work, how can we appeal to people. She took it so seriously that I have very fond memories of that period, although I know since then Facebook has been in a lot of trouble, Instagram in particular. And what I find extraordinary is that half the world is on a Meta platform, because obviously they own WhatsApp, Instagram and Facebook, and the penetration of that company is extraordinary.
Well, I mean, I can only say that I, having read the whole book, I just didn't think that those moments were the focus of the book. I mean, the book is really focused on their leadership or their forays globally and like pushing into international situations where they really had no place and really had no interest in engaging responsibly with other governments. Like that's the part that I took away from it. Not so much the quasi-sexual stuff. I actually didn't interpret that sexually. I thought it was more just inappropriate, like in a workplace environment, especially on the heels of a book. I think that those situations as laid out in the book were just because the parallel track was that everybody was embracing lean in and how to conduct yourself in the workplace. And so it would seem to divert, like in many ways, the behavior of the executives at Facebook would seem to have diverged from the principles laid out in that book. And seeing someone who was so up close and personal with that whole, like that duality, the duality of that is always... Well, you get to this place in life, and I'm sure you feel this way too. You get to this place in life, and often you just wake up and go, wow, everything in this world really is a bunch of horseshit, isn't it?
I never feel like that. I wake up so excited to see what the world has wrought. What she does do very effectively is talk about her lived experience as a mother in a workplace which was extremely competitive and where she didn't feel she could ever refer to herself as having children.
Well, it seems like most of the women there felt that it was your best course of action was to just act like you had no home life, no home, no children whatsoever, really no life outside of that place, which is
I think that was
counter, just counter the narrative of lean in.
Well, definitely counter to the narrative of lean in, but not unusual in corporate America. I remember having a colleague who, in her previous job, said she would call her children when they got home from school, and if the boss was walking past, she would slam the phone down because she didn't want him to know that she was talking to her children. And I thought, God, I've never had it that bad. I've had moments. I mean, I remember one friend saying that she'd been asked if she had children. This was Nell Scovell, actually. She was a very good television comedy writer, as you know. She worked for Letterman. They started...
She's incredible.
Yeah, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But she said she had been asked by one male boss if she had children. And she said, I do, but their names escape me right now. Which was a sort of funny way of trying to disassociate the responsibilities of being a parent.
I've said this to lots of different people through the years. I could always tell if I was in a room with mostly male television executives and they asked me about my children, I knew that the meeting was over, that I was never going to get anywhere with them.
Wow.
Yeah, you could just tell. It was just like a question they would throw out, but they were so asleep behind the eyes if they said that question to me, like they actually had no interest in the answer.
And I'm sure they never asked Jason, your husband, that.
Are you kidding? He's probably never been asked once. Okay, so what's going on at the Kennedy Center now? What's going on? Are there new developments there? Wait, Usha and J.D. Vance got booed.
They got booed. There's been a lot
Center.
of booing, actually, of Usha Vance.
Yes. Well, I don't have any sympathy for her. Do you?
I do have some sympathy for her, actually. Okay. I think she's in a very tricky position because obviously she wants to support her husband, but it's hard to believe that some of the crazy things, as he says himself that he says, she agrees with, and she has to stand there smiling. In fact, there's a moment where he's on video saying, Usha, I want to thank her for being a very good second lady, but in fact, the truth is she can't do anything apart from laugh and smile, even when I say crazy things. So there was an admission of the fact he does say crazy things.
Certainly does.
And then she was laughing as he said it. Slightly unfortunate.
Slightly unfortunate, yes. Speaking of entertainment, let's talk about that deportation video.
This is extraordinary that the Customs and Border Patrol are now putting out Instagram videos, and I'm sure they're on TikTok too, of arresting people as if it is just part of the Hunger Games that is Donald Trump's America.
Yes. What was the song Closing Time by Semisonic was the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go home, but you can't
stay here.
You can't stay here.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Well, and of course the band has now come out and disassociated itself from them using the song in the video. But it is extraordinary to think we're now at a moment where Customs and Border Patrol of the United States of America put out entertainment videos about people being deported.
I'm really excited to talk about I'm terrified to talk about where we go next, but I'm excited to talk about where we go next. What are the backstops?
Well, we're going to be talking to Shan Wu.
I know.
About whether or not we're actually in a constitutional crisis. Which is fascinating, right? But before we do, the one thing I wanted to mention was that there is talk at the White House. Well, they've all been asking, how does Trump get to sleep at night without Melania?
Tell me more about this.
All I can tell you is
everything.
I came across a phrase, someone gave me a phrase, which is the assumption is that our current president is post-sex. Which I think means he has more time to focus on other things. Because I think when Bill Clinton was in the White House, when JFK was in the White House, these were men who were also having sex in the White House.
Is the implication that he's backed up?
The implication is
the pipes,
that
the
he
plumbing.
has a lot of time to focus on executive orders.
I interpret it differently. I interpret it as though people are saying that the plumbing is backed up and somebody needs to get in there and release the valve. Otherwise, we're just going to have bad idea after bad idea, and we just need a little calm down.
I think it might explain all the late night truth socials.
Oh, God.
Anyway, it was just an interesting idea, and I will leave it there.
I actually feel sick to my stomach now.
Welcome back. We're joined now by brilliant Daily Beast legal correspondent Shan Wu. Wu is a former federal prosecutor who served as a counsel to U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno. And we brought him in specifically to calm Sam's nerves.
I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. Thank you so much for being here. Can you help us understand this moment? Just what do we do in general now? How should we be seeing what is happening?
And are we in a constitutional crisis, as I keep hearing? And what actually is a constitutional crisis?
That's a great question. So I think the term constitutional crisis, first, it's undefined. I mean, it's not like an actual specific diagnosis that one can give, and we've met those elements. I do think we've been overusing it, not right now, but we've been overusing it for a number of years, constantly saying that what Trump does puts us in a constitutional crisis. So my personal definition of the constitutional crisis is when the system's really completely breaking down, meaning the different branches of government are literally at loggerheads, they're defying each other, or they're not speaking to each other. So I don't think we're there yet. This is unquestionably a stress test, and I think a lot of what Trump has done has been a stress test on the system, which for the most part, the system has been failing. Actually, it has not been working very well. But what's happening right now is that the Trump administration is really pushing their expansion of the presidential authority. They are running into a lot of resistance, primarily in courts. And a lot of that resistance is coming from private lawsuits, not the federal government itself, obviously. And many judges are ruling against them in a number of stages.
Right.
Now, the constitutional crisis aspect is, what if they defy the judges? There's a lot of bluster, a lot of talk, and there may be a lot of undermining of the judge's authority, but they haven't quite reached the point of outright saying, we won't do exactly what you're telling us to do. We can talk more about that because they have a lot of muddying things they can do before they actually have to get to that point. So to me, we're not yet in a crisis. It's certainly a stress test. We haven't been doing that well on the stress test. But to me, the crisis is when finally he reaches a point where, let's say, crystal clear order, won't do anything about it. We're the executive. We've got the military. Make us.
Right. Well, I mean, we're so close to that with these deportation flights to El Salvador, doesn't it feel like I feel like we're in a really gray zone because I know there's legalese involved. I guess what you're saying is it has to be more crystal clear than defying an order in that way, because at least they tried to make a legal argument. Are you saying that the constitutional crisis occurs when they stop even trying to make a legal argument?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Or if they're like what you're suggesting, they're not showing up, they don't bother with the
Right.
courts, or there's a crystal clear order that they literally say, make me do it. So right now, they're certainly in defiance. They're trying to undermine the rule of law. They're probably defying the rule of law. They're taking illegal actions, but they're still in the process. And for whatever nonsense, inappropriate things they want to say about the judges, they're still in the judge's court. When the trial level district court rules against them, they're saying they're going to appeal it to the next level, and then they hope to get to the Supreme Court. That's still within the process, no matter what their position is. So in that sense, to me, we're still within the constitutional structure. I mean, it is a big stress test. It's a problem the way they're trying to flout the laws and the norm.
Right.
But to me, it's not a crisis for the Constitution.
But don't we feel like that could happen overnight? Like literally Tom Homan said just the other day, like, we don't care that judges and courts are ordering us to stop deportations. We're going to do it anyway. So they're like foreshadowing what could come tomorrow. And what if it does come tomorrow?
And they've certainly been attacking the judges and saying the judges are radical left-wing. Radical left-wingers, yeah. And John Roberts, obviously the Supreme Court Justice, came out and admonished the government. And he said, for more than 2 centuries, it's been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision, in response to people saying the judge, in particular Judge Boasberg, who tried to stop the deportations to El Salvador, should be impeached. Sian, talk about, is that unusual for the Chief Justice to come out and say something like that? And I feel like there's been this sort of rock starring of the Supreme Court judges. What's going on the Supreme Court? You know some of them. Is this an exciting moment for them? Is this what they live for, to see this ultimate test?
I would say my own views on this is that there is too much of this rock star status accorded to the court. I mean, we certainly saw that with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Whenever a Supreme Court justice seems to rule favorably for one side or the other, each side wants to adopt them as really their champion that way. Overall, systemically, as a big problem, we have way too much importance grafted onto the Supreme Court. It's no longer a co-equal branch. It's the most supreme branch. I think what's going on for the justices is I think it's often overlooked, the sort of human nature side of it. I mean, they have grown up legally with this image of the court as the highest position to be in. There's an ego factor. They love the idea, I think, of deciding really juicy things that affect all American lives. So there's definitely an ego factor in there. Whether they want cases that are this divisive in the country, that they probably don't want to do, because they also sense that when they rule on really divisive things, it hurts their standing, which has been really very, very low and sinking
Right.
lower, in large part due to their ethics issues and their inability or unwillingness to really try to enforce ethics codes against themselves.
My general takeaway is never have any heroes ever, and never say it out loud if you do.
Right.
Okay, well, checks and balances are like the bedrock of democracy. If he ignores the judiciary and Congress won't act, what are we living in?
If he really ignores it,
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, it comes back to that old, political saying, all power flows from the barrel of a gun. I mean, it's who has the guns, who has the
Oh
military
boy.
at this point. And quite frighteningly, it's very scary to your point. We've seen a little microcosm of that with Doge's efforts against this small nonprofit that gives aid. I think it's called USAID Africa. It's not USAID, where they actually would show up. They have shown up with the FBI. They threatened to use the marshals. They got the DC police to be on their side. So that's really a microcosm example of what's going to happen there. Is whoever has the military power, the marshal strength, rules.
I don't even like to say these words, but it feels like we're kind of edging toward. Are we edging toward a civil war? Doesn't it need two sides? I mean, I only see one side, and then I see a bunch of people booing at the Kennedy Center. I don't
I
know.
think we are definitely edging towards the constitutional crisis we were just
Yeah.
discussing. Civil war, not to be overly technical, I'd have a different term for that. Just like you're saying, you kind of like need two sides. Who are the rebels in this case? But as the actual use of martial forces happens, military, police, I think you edge closer to that open defiance. In terms of the court cases, they're still squarely in the system, no matter what Tom Homan wants to say. Although I think he's putting a nice, red flag on his back, nice target for being held in contempt if he shows up and starts talking that way. But whatever that kind of bluster is, they're still in the court system. Now, there's a lot they can do to pretend to go along with the court system while they actually, don't do it. And that's really up to opposing lawyers and the judge to really one by one take away those excuses until it's crystal clear what they are doing, and they're answering clear questions like about the deportation. Who's on the planes? Let's start with that.
Right. What's our 10-point plan? What's our 2-point plan?
Well,
What's the
also,
next step?
isn't this about the extent to which the public also get involved? And I can see that people aren't particularly wound up about alleged criminals being deported, but the mass firing of employees feels like a potential powder keg in terms of the courts making one decision and Doge or government officials making another and saying, we're not going to rehire you. So what happens in a situation like that, Sean?
It's kind of the same theme, which is they're being ordered to, let's say, stop terminations. They're being ordered to rehire people. And now comes the follow-up, right? I mean, important, the judge makes different judges have made those orders. And now the question is, how do they make sure the orders are being followed? And there's a lot of room for mischief there. I mean, they can haul in people from the agency who are Trump appointees who say, oh, yeah, we're rehiring everybody. Everything's great. And in fact, employees are like, well, no, I haven't received an email. My email's not on. I'm not there, not getting a paycheck. So then the judge really has to drill down on what's actually happening and force people under oath to give the testimony so they can get some answers on it. So that's still part of the process that has to happen there.
What are the things that I should be worried about that I don't even know that I should be worried about? Like, are we being creative enough? I mean, they have incredible imaginations. And I feel like we're operating in it's like we're just playing two different games right now.
It's also difficult to know because so much of it is done for show and done for this kind of huge television show that Trump is running and how it plays on television.
Right.
And it's difficult to know, to Sean's point, the extent to which the detail is actually being monitored.
Right. What is the showdown? What is the final showdown that he is gunning for?
Or not even the final showdown. What's the beginning of the showdowns where one side wins?
Yes.
It is incremental, and I think to the extent that a lot of these, what I think are illegal and unconstitutional actions are pushed back on or remedied, it's going to be incremental. It's going to come in small pieces. They're certainly not going to suddenly stop doing all that. The big change here, the big unknown fear is one, we don't actually know what they're doing. We don't really know who are the Doge people going in and doing things. That's an unknown fear. The greater fear is in terms of the access they've had to large databases. This is potentially like a breach of people's privacy data that is really incomprehensible. And that is an unknown. We actually don't know what kind of damage has been done. We don't know how the whole landscape of privacy and how our data is going to be used or what it looks like for us in the future. We don't know what that looks like yet because it's been such a fundamental change, fundamental breach. So that's a big unknown to worry about.
All right. What's our final question for Sean?
I don't know. I just don't know what comes next. I don't know what it could possibly be like to be a judge right now.
Scary.
Who knows?
Scary,
Yeah.
right?
Who knows that your order is going to be defied? Then what? What's your next move? Everybody, the chill around Washington.
Well,
the chill is, you can feel it.
Yeah, the chill and also the doxing of judges and the attacking them on X just feels a step change in intimidation, which is really alarming.
It almost makes you wish that the Democrats were demonstrating leadership right now. Anyway.
Well, I think
I'll see myself out.
I mean, at least Chuck Schumer had to cancel his book tour. Unbelievable that he was thinking of going on a book tour. Well,
Yes. R.I.P. your book tour.
R.I.P. Sian, thank you very much. We would love to have you back as we hurtle further towards the constitutional crisis, or do we? Who knows? We have no idea. But really appreciate you coming on and trying to explain it to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Do you feel better after Sian's explanation that we appear to be teetering on the edge of a constitutional crisis?
No, I don't feel better at all.
I mean, it is interesting that he thinks we are really testing the outer limits of the justice system.
I think that we certainly are testing the outer limits. However, I just don't share a measured opinion about how long it's going to take. I actually think I love risk. I love talking about risk management and things like that. And I think it's so unknowable, actually. But the speed and the variety and the ferocity of the things that they're doing it feels limitless to me. So I actually feel like waiting for the courts to do their thing and for things to play out slowly is just not really, I mean, I don't know. I just think it could happen very fast and we won't exactly know what the next step is.
I think there is probably a crew of extremely brave judges out there who are going to do the right thing. And I think you see, certain government agencies saying, well, we're going to have to rehire these people. I'm not a doomsayer in the way you are.
Well, I am a bit of a catastrophist, I guess. But, I mean, prove me wrong. I've been right about it. I feel like I've been right about the catastrophes that I've personally predicted. And, I have yet to be proven wrong in my
Listen, you're a woman who looks at a dolphin and sees a rapist. What can I say?
Well, we should all see that when we look at dolphins. Their beautiful smiles are... It's not real. I've seen what they can rot. Oh, my God. Okay. Chuck Schumer will save us. Don't worry. The whole room laughed. That's not good. He is not meeting our leadership needs at this time. Step aside, sir. Please. Thank you.
We're back and we're excited to be joined by this week's Beasts of the Week, Max Mutchnick and David Kohan. Max and David are the Emmy Award-winning creators and executive producers of the much-beloved show Will and Grace, and their new comedy series, Mid-Century Modern, starring Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, Linda Lavin and Nathan Lee Graham, premieres March 28th on Hulu. Max and David, welcome to the show. Oh, there they are.
Here.
We don't have our hair pieces on. You're not supposed to see us yet.
Oh, no.
How thrilling
Meet us
that
back
you're
here in
practically
3
naked.
hours.
We're supposed to talk to an engineer. Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
I think we're already talking. Is this the beginning of the interview? This might be the beginning of the interview.
If you're speaking to me and I can hear you, I guess that counts as a conversation.
That's called dialogue.
But I think an engineer has to say, you guys are talking.
Engineer, are we talking?
Is this a real conversation?
Definition-wise, yeah.
I think it is. I think it is excellent.
Official.
Max,
You sound great.
I realise that this is our first conversation ever without an ice-cold martini.
I know. I know.
And it feels so wrong.
It's just a proper cup of coffee and a copper coffee cup.
Oh, no. I want an ice cold. I want a frosty martini.
A frosty
Well,
martini.
you'll have to come over.
Oh, yes, please.
I'll do that. I'll do you up right.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
I had a martini with Ben Sherwood 2 nights ago.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Katie.
He didn't have one. I did.
Kate. I'm sorry, ladies.
Did he have a mojito?
As a matter of fact, no. A nice
Close
glass,
those both ways.
a genteel glass of wine.
Okay, what's going on, Max?
We're just trying to help so we can see you better. Just making it so we're not as set up. Where are you all? Where are your offices? And I'm sorry, we'll be
We're
done
in
with
an
this nonsense.
Adirondack cabin, as Sam likes to describe it, in
In
the
Times
middle of
Square.
Times Square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, here we go. I
Okay.
think if you're good, we're good.
We're very, very good. And I think we should keep all that in because that's the making of the cheese or whatever the phrase is. What is the
Sausage.
showbiz phrase? The making
Joanna,
of the sausage.
we're making a sausage, not a cheese
It's
log.
the vegetarian
We're
equivalent
not
of that
making
line.
We're not making a cheese ball.
Max and David, welcome. You sold this show in the room with 3 words, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the 3 words of gay Golden Girls,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, well, it's very easy to just get the point across, but it's not quite gay Golden Girls. I mean, people like to say that because it just gets the point across, but I don't think that that's what we ended up writing.
No, it's very spicy. I liked it so much. I think it's great. It's really, really funny.
It has some of the sharpest television
Yes.
lines I've heard for a long time. And also, it's incredibly edgy. I mean, actually, my first question to you is, do you think you could have written this show if it had been commissioned like this week?
Oh, because of what's going on in the world?
Yeah.
I think that Hulu and, the company,
It's a Disney company.
Yeah.
So in the spirit of Snow White and
but I think that,
Asia,
yeah.
we thought this seemed like the right way to go.
But I also think that, I believe that we were in business with someone going into this, with Ryan Murphy. He knew what we were doing, and that's what he brought to the to our overlords. And we opened with that. We want this to sound like what people sound like. That kind of stilted multicam talk, I think, is one of the reasons why multicams kind of started to slip away, because it's just like no one says I boinked him last night. That just doesn't happen. And the idea of us writing in a cadence and using the words that we use was appealing, and that's what was on the page in the pilot, and that's what they bought. And I mean, the 3rd line is about being a reluctant bottom. So and there was never pushback on that. There was pushback on other things, but
I would say my jaw slightly dropped with that 3rd line. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a really interesting show that pushes the culture to try and understand gay life much more than popular culture generally does.
Yeah, I felt like it was a very real freshening of the concept of multicam. So can I ask, are you in front of a studio audience? Like, are you doing like the traditional experience?
Yes.
oh yes, very much. Yeah. We shoot on Tuesday nights. We load in an audience
That's
of about
great.
300 people, and they're super responsive to it because it's natural.
Yeah.
It's natural. And going forward from from Reluctant Bottom as a jumping off point. And I don't want to say, because this is a show about a group of friends, and we know as old show
Sort of the
business,
rolling off point.
the rolling off point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our job is to entertain. So we weren't about to alienate an audience. We wanted to, our job is to bring them in. But we knew we wanted to address the world that we were writing about in a
Right.
very real way. That's why in that first scene we're talking about that they had lost people to AIDS, which is something that we had never done on the other gay skit that we were involved with.
On Will and Grace.
Yeah,
I
that
bet your live tapings are so fun. Do you make them extra fun for your audience?
they're pretty good because we get that script ready for that filming, that live audience, and then Dave and I rewrite throughout the night. So once they get it right, and we know that
It's the writer's scrum
yeah,
where we all
right.
get together and whatever. Either if something didn't work, fix it, and if something did work, best it. That's
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's the directive.
there
Wow.
are some that call it the writer's scrum, and then there's another way you can refer to it as the viper pit. Because it is that moment, and you're working in real time. There are 400 or 500 people on that stage, and time is money kind of thing. and we have to write fast and we have to replace fast.
You need someone who is comfortable saying no in rapid fire succession, and Max is really just the guy for that.
Max
That
is
would
the
be
no
me.
guy. And tell me something, because Max and I have talked endlessly about how do we lose £5 here or £10 there. When you're doing this, does the stress make you eat or does the stress make you lose weight?
Important question.
It's a very good question.
It really depends on the week. And there's a fork in the road. And it's like, I can either choose to say, well, this is going to make it so that I'm not at all hungry because I'm stressed, or this is going to make me want to eat constantly because I'm stressed. And then you just have a choice to make.
I'm always so
You know, I
curious
mean,
about
if
what people's stress
Look,
snacks
Triggers
are.
yeah, or the
Yeah, I
triggers
think-
for a snack. Yeah.
I think we have to be honest with these people and tell them really how we eat on a show night, which is, it used to be pills, nothing, then booze.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it became, because we kind of at this point, we've been doing this together for so long. We just kind of cycle together. Now, so now for me on this round, I'm speaking for myself, but he kind of follows along with not the same supplements. If I'm gacked up to my neck with Manjaro, okay,
Yeah.
there will be no eating until the last scene. And then traditionally, meaning always, at every filming, Dave and I are handed a hot, steamy cup of iced vodka.
Yeah.
And
It looks like coffee. We fool the audience.
And we blow
This
on
one
it.
is a coffee. You
Makes me
blow on
blow.
it.
You
on it.
blow on it? That's hilarious.
Or if you look
Right.
close, they're all right.
Yeah, but they're ice cube, and that's it's just the way that. And by the way, that also is we've grown that way too. It used to be we were handed a Red Bull, 2/3 of the Red Bull was poured out, and the rest was vodka, and that was what we drank. We're
Concealed in the paper towel,
Yeah.
so people wouldn't
it
be
had,
wise.
it had an origami like fold around it, and then but now it really is about a coffee cup, ice, vodka with they wave a soda bottle just over the top. And that's how we get to the end of the night. That's food.
How do you decompress after our podcast? Just barbecue potato chips and red wine.
No, I go to Pret a Manger at the end of the block
Oh, God.
and get the tomato and feta soup. But nobody cares about that.
Jesus, that's not decompression food.
And this isn't a spoiler alert because everybody knows it, of course, but one of your cast members, the brilliant Linda Lavin, dies while you're actually filming, right? Or while you're in process.
Yeah, that was really the thing that pulled this show into a very tight family, and it was just such an utter shock to all of us. Do you want to talk a little bit about what happened?
Well, I mean, people say this, and I'm not being hagiographic here when I say that, like, she was universally beloved.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
She was the mamala, right, on stage, but she was also like bawdy and funny and smart and empathetic, just like loving and soulful. You got no conversation with her. She stopped what she's doing. She looks you in the eye and she listens to you and remembers and brings it up for the next. I mean, every single person she had that relationship with. It was really, I hadn't really seen anything like that. So the blow was devastating.
Yeah, and we had taken a break for the holiday, and she really only involved David and myself and Mr. Lane, and it was just such a shocking thing, and it happened. I'm gonna digress for a second to tell you about how to have someone when you're in the middle of this and and it is so much about time, and you have this set amount of time to write this set number of shows, right? And you write in front of yourself, so you're kind of ready for what's to come. So we had almost finished the season with Linda, in obviously in all those episodes, and then this happens. But when we got this when this thing was put together, and we met with Ryan, and Ryan Murphy was very clear about the fact that he had not done this type of thing. I'm going to let you, but this is what you two do. I'm going to show up when you need, when there's something that I know how to do, better than you two. I'm going to show up. Right. And I will just say that Linda's passing was so jarring and so shocking for us. And I called him and I said, well, I guess we'll just, we'll figure out a way to get through the rest of the season, and then we'll write this last episode where
The farewell.
which will be a farewell to her. And Ryan very smartly said on the phone, because he just had a clarity, because he wasn't in the muck with us. No, what you and David need to do is you need to throw out the script that you're about to film, go to your house and write the episode where she dies now, and film it. And then I want you to return back to the show and show yourselves and everybody that you work with, let alone Hulu and, the parent company, that this show can,
the show goes on.
The show goes on. And by the way, that was so who Linda was too, and so we came home from the holiday and just sat in not too far from where you and I drink martinis, Joanna, and we sat down and wrote this episode where she dies, and we really wanted to provide the experience for the audience that we experienced, because it was the truth. What happens with someone you love? You wake up, you start the day with that person, everything's fine, and then they're dead. How does that work? And that's kind of what that's what we wrote.
I want to cry right now.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds ghoulish to say, I can't wait to watch the episode, but I can't wait to watch the episode.
That's a really brilliant instinct too. And it is such I don't know, it's just it's so smart to process it that way. I just think that I'm so glad
Linda
that you did
actually
that.
had a hand in that decision, because one of the things was that, prior to this, she had just been diagnosed with cancer, with lung cancer. And she was like girding herself up to fight it. And one of the things she said to us was, whatever is going on with me, put it into the character. I mean, this shouldn't be hidden. This is something that I'm going through. Why shouldn't the character be going through it as well? And we extrapolated when she died.
Yeah.
This is what we were going to write about.
And so we haven't said this to publicly yet, but when you see this episode, which is the 8th episode in the run of 10, the dialogue that you hear coming from Nathan is in fact it's almost verbatim the dialogue that took place between Linda and her husband on PCH, en route to Cedar Sinai. And because it started with her, and then Steve, who, her husband, who was such a blessing and a help to us. And I believe that we helped him too, because we processed this all at the same time. I mean, we filmed this episode, and I don't think she had been gone for even 2 weeks, or just about 2 weeks. But Dave and I went to him and said, hey, how do you feel about us using that conversation that took place? Because you really get a sense of how special their relationship was and how special Linda was by what transpired. And you can actually hear it it's in the episode.
And for people who haven't watched the show yet, she plays Nathan Lane's mother, and she's hilarious.
She's incredible.
Yeah, she's hilarious, and he's hilarious with her, and the character is hilarious too.
Yeah, when he goes in the room and she's sitting there in the first episode, I was like, this is incredible. I just love Linda Lavin. Like, I just
and the audience loved her so much. I mean, the live audiences, they just have, she was just absolutely
what an icon.
Well, I can't wait to watch the rest of the series, and congratulations.
Yeah, it's great. We need it right now.
We do. We need something to laugh at.
We need it, and we need this kind of storytelling. Like,
Do you think Scott Bessant is going to watch this show?
Scott Bessant is not going to watch this show, but I
He
am.
might watch this show. I think Scott Bessant is going to love this show, and he's going to
Okay.
love. He's supposed
hope
to
so.
love great decor. This is a beautiful house in Palm Springs. The Nathan Lane character, who's the sort of host, and they come to live in his house, has great taste. I think Scott Bessant's going to like
And
it.
you get the absolutely sexy and wildly funny Matt Bomer,
Yeah, he's
Yep.
which is going to be a
terrific.
surprise to people, and Nathan Lee Graham, who's just a magnificent treat. And you know, on March 28th, you can watch all of the episodes on Hulu, and I hope that people do use it as an escape.
Well, and you've had some of my favourite people. We've had Isaac Mizrahi on the show. We've had Dan Bukatinsky on the show.'t got Don Roos writing. Some of my favourite people. So well done. Brilliant concept and excellently executed. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Yes,
so,
thank you
so
for having
much.
us. And sorry that we ended on a little bit of a low note, but like it actually is,
No.
it's a comedy. This show is a comedy. Just so everybody's clear.
Yeah, no, we know.
It's a comedy. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
It's a comedy. And we need to laugh. Everybody needs to laugh. Good luck with it, and come back
you.
and talk to us soon.
You're both nice human beings. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening if you have been. If you enjoyed the podcast, like, subscribe, comment, and share it everywhere.
Oh my God. And keep sending those emails to beastpod@thedailybeast.com. Drop us a comment on YouTube. Joanna literally got back to 140 commenters this morning.
Just this morning. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I don't leave a comment for absolutely everybody.
Okay.
I note everybody's comments,
Wow.
and then I try and respond to about half of the people.
This is
Not long. I'm not writing essays,
no,
but I'm
just-
either saying I agree or I'm trying to explain
Right.
why you and I disagree on things.
you just do a little thumbs up. Just a little thumb. Anyway.
Yeah, you know why? Because when I was a kid, I used to write letters to people all the time.
Did
And the
you?
people I got, in fact, it turned out that a ton of my friends did this too. It's a kind of precocious thing that I think sort of English literature leaning students do. And so I used to write, my first letter was to the local bus station actually complaining about something. And I got a letter back and I thought, this is such a good idea. I need to make my opinions felt. And so I appreciate it when people reach out to us, and I want to acknowledge it.
I did that too. I wrote letters all the time.
You see?
Yes, I was a letter writer.
You were a letter
I was
writer.
I was a little complaining.
Of course you were.
I complained that
Right.
all the boys won the board games and all the commercials.
That's interesting.
Yes, and then when I got a toque in the mail, I was thrilled.
There you go. What is a toque?
It's a Canadian beanie. What do you call them down here? It's a hat. It's a snow hat.
Of course, it's a snow hat in Canada.
snow hat.
In England, we would just get quite erudite letters back. But I used to write to all my favourite authors, and they would often write back. And it was
Really?
yeah, it was very motivating to me actually. So now I try and do that back. When I hear from people, I always try and respond.
This is fantastic. This is
Yeah,
direct
who knew?
action. I love it. I love it. Well, everyone, thank you for your letters, comments. There's going to be so many more comments. You're going to be such a busy woman. And as we say goodbye, I would like to remind everyone to just get out there and be best.
Be beast.
That too.